In this video, Brandon Carter is going to explain how to make a lot more money while at the same time working a lot less. So is it really possible to make more money while working less? I mean, it's going to blow some people's mind. Some people, they're all about the hustle culture. They believe that if you want to make more money, you need to work longer hours, to work harder, and that it's all about the effort that you put in. So is it really possible to not work that hard or not that long and to make even more money? You know what? Let's find out.
This week's book of the week is 80/20 Sales and Marketing, the definitive guide to working less and making more.
I would even argue that you don't need to read that book to understand the whole concept. The 80/20 principle simply states that 20% of the things that we do bring us 80% of the results that we get. And the opposite is also true. 80% of the things that you do only account for 20% of the results that you get. And that's why in my business, one of the first things that I did and that significantly increased my productivity was to ask myself, what are those 20% of things which bring me 80% of results? And to take another example, if I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel, what is going to grow the channel more than anything else? Publishing content, making videos, and that's exactly why right now I'm publishing 2 videos a day on this YouTube channel. And what I've noticed is that the growth is a lot more rapid than when I simply publish a video or 2, 3, 4 videos a week, even a video a day. When you publish 2 videos per day, it's like another level. And honestly, most books are long. They're like 200 pages, 300, 400 pages sometimes, and you will learn a lot from books, believe me, because they go really in depth on a specific topic. But sometimes what I found is that reading a summary or watching a YouTube video, it taught me more than what was actually in the book. So books are long to read, on average 6 to literally 10 hours. So if you want to learn something specific to go deep on a specific topic, one thing that you can do is to read a book, because they go in depth. But for books like the 80/20 principle or the compound effect, in my opinion, if you read the summary, it's like reading the entire book, because it could really be summed up in a simple paragraph. And if we take the example of literally the 80/20 principle, only 20% of the book is actually going to teach you 80% of the stuff that you don't even know. So this means that 80% of the book is spent covering the 20% of things that you already know. And sometimes, honestly, when you watch a video, you take an online course, you read a book, you might think that if you're not learning something new every second, you're missing out, something is wrong, or it's pointless to read it, or to follow the course, or to watch the video. But what I've personally found is that it's not about learning the most amount of things as possible. In a book, I'm only going to write down the concepts that really I'm learning, that I didn't previously understand. Because what I did before when I was reading books is that, I kid you not, I would literally write down entire paragraphs from the book. But then the truth is, I would never look back at my notes, because I just rewrote an entire paragraph. So now what I do is that I underline the quotes that impact me, of course, but I simply write down the stuff that I'm learning that is completely new. If I already know a concept mentioned in the book, I don't feel the need to write it down again. And also, lots of people, in my opinion, they go about reading non-fiction books the wrong way. You know, in school, they made us read books like fictional books, and lots of people, they didn't want to read those, because when you're forced to do something, honestly, it's not really going to be that enjoyable. And so in my opinion, school really made a lot of people hate reading. And I've seen it by talking to lots of people. When I was a kid, I spent so much time reading so many books, like fictional books, and then I moved it to non-fiction. But I would still always hate it when in school I was forced to read a book that I just didn't want to read. But what I really invite you to do is that whenever you're watching educational content, just like right now, or when you read a book, you watch a podcast, an interview, you follow an online course, have a notepad, or it could be a Google Doc on your computer, take some notes. And every time you learn something which is new, you can write it down. But the goal is to review those notes maybe on a weekly basis, for instance, so that you don't forget the key concepts that you learn, because human memory is very flawed. And that's very funny to see, because sometimes people, they can have an argument over something which happened in the past, and then it turns out all of them were wrong. So that goes to show you just how human memory is flawed. And we have something which is called selective memory. We only remember the things that we actually use, and that makes sense. Your body works like this. To give you another example, if you lift weights, you build some muscle, but then you stop, you're going to lose that muscle mass, because your body does not quote-unquote need it. You lose what you don't use. That's simply how things are made to be from an evolutionary perspective. And you see a lot of people, they brag about working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. I've heard all kinds of stuff. Some people, they claim they work 100 hours a week, as if that was some kind of accomplishment. But then you ask them, how much money do you make anyway? And they don't really know what to tell you. What I've personally noticed is that sometimes when I was working more, it didn't always correlate with me making more money, because simply working more, working longer hours, it's not going to guarantee that you make more, that you get better results. At some point, if you do too much, you will hit what we call a point of diminishing returns. This means that if you do any more than you already do, past that point, you will start to see worse and worse results. So you really have to be careful. You don't want to do too little, because otherwise, obviously, you won't get what you want. You'll see poor results, but at the same time, you don't want to do too much, because if you do, like I said, you'll see worse results. But for most people, they can afford to push harder. Like, to give you an example, this morning, like always, I was at the gym and I hit massive PRs. And the funny thing is that the previous week, I thought I hit a new personal record, but today I completely crushed it. And I found that I was able to just push so much more than I thought I would. I had more in reserve than I initially thought. And oftentimes, this is going to be true for most people. They're not really pushing as hard as they could. Now, there is one fundamental distinction to really understand. Like I said, just because you work more or you work longer hours, it's not going to mean you're going to make more money or be more successful or have more results automatically. And it's not only because of the point of diminishing returns. Because the first thing that you need to ask yourself is, am I working on the right thing? If you start a consulting business, for instance, people don't care about how nice your website is. Sure, if you want to have a website, it's better, I'm not going to lie to you. It adds more professionalism and people, they can look at your work and review it. But at the same time, while having a website is a good idea, it does not mean that you should spend a month or 2 months trying to build your website, because that activity, it's not going to lead to you getting customers. In business, you need to understand that you need to move fast. Year after year, things are accelerating. I mean, can you imagine writing a book on how to make a great YouTube video or on how to build a successful Instagram account? It's going to be very tough to write that kind of book because it's going to be outdated so freaking fast. And that's why the best way to learn anything which is related to the internet and to social media, it's on the internet and on social media directly. It's the perfect medium to learn.
20% of the population has 80% of the money.
And this is for many reasons. The more money you have, the more access you have to leverage. And leverage is what is going to make somebody rich compared to somebody else who is not going to be rich. The more leverage you have, the more money you can make. You can leverage somebody's time, skills, somebody else's money, like the money of investors or of the bank. And you can also leverage automations, artificial intelligence, systems, processes, and even making a YouTube video is a form of leverage because you quote-unquote duplicate yourself. And by that, what I mean is that if I'm making a video, it could get 0 views, but it could get 10 views, 1,000 views, 10,000 views, and that's potentially 10,000 people or even 1 million people if the video blows up for some reason who discover my brand and my business. Now imagine having to knock on 1,000 doors or 1 million doors. So that goes to show you the power of leverage. Most people, the reason why they're not making that much money is because they have barely any leverage. When you work at McDonald's, you make some burgers all day long, you don't have any leverage. And because it doesn't require any skills to do that sort of job, the pay is so small because they can literally take somebody, literally anyone off the street, and turn them into a fast food employee literally in just a couple hours. However, they cannot really take somebody from the street and turn that person into a great lawyer or a great doctor within just a few hours. It's not possible. And that's really the only difference in pay between a doctor, a lawyer, and somebody who makes burgers at a fast food joint. But at the same time, trading your time for money, it's not going to guarantee that you make 6, 7, or even hell, 8 figures a year, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Billionaires, they don't work 1 billion hours a day or a week or a month. It's literally impossible.
There's 20%. These are your super fans. You know what I'm saying? Where everybody else, they spend some money, but these guys, given the opportunity, they would spend way more. So what did that look like for me in my business? So when I had the supplement line, I would go into my email software. It was called Klaviyo, and it was synced up to Shopify. And I would say, hey, show me the customers that have spent $1,000 or more. Then I had another tier, $5,000 or more. Then I had another tier, $10,000, right? You know what I'm saying? And what I would do with this is I would make segments of these people in the email software, and I would send these guys special deals. They would be deals that I felt like the regular motherfuckers would not buy. So I'd be like, man, you get all these supplements for $1,000. They're like such avid fans that I can like set up a bulk deal and give them like a percentage off if they spend $1,000 this week. And these would be my most profitable emails because with like Klaviyo, you could see which emails you sent made the most money. And every time I would send something out like this, we'd make significantly more.
And that goes to show you that even within your business, 20% of the customers will most likely be responsible for 80% of the revenue. Now, it's not always going to apply because, for instance, if you sell one product only, like one online course, to give you an example, Consulting Fast Lane is my program where I help people to grow their own consulting business. And typically when you buy it once, you're not going to buy it twice or 3 times or 4 times. You don't need to do that. So in my example, for instance, it's not going to be very applicable. But if you do lead generation for e-commerce brands in, let's say, the fitness niche, this can be a monthly service, meaning they're going to pay you on a monthly basis for that kind of service. Because if they start paying you, you're not going to keep working for free, are you? And oftentimes what you'll find is that 20% of your customers, they bring 80% of the revenue. Some deals will be bigger than others. And the funny thing is that I know lots of people, they like to charge high ticket prices because typically when somebody is willing to pay a high price for something, they're more refined customers. They won't complain as much over small details. And oftentimes, most people, they might not realize this, but the people who pay the least amount of money, it's like the people who always want the free stuff, they are usually looking for a way out before they even begin, so they're not very committed. But when you invest $10,000, $2,000 in something, it's a high level of commitment. People are more serious, so they're better customers. So oftentimes, 80% of the trouble, it comes from the customers who pay the least. Now, does it mean that you should only sell stuff that is high ticket and that you should never sell low ticket products? That's not necessarily true, because not everybody is going to be able to afford high ticket prices. And that is why, in my opinion, if at some point you really want to take your business to the next level, you need to offer a price point for every single type of person. And what I mean by this is that you need to offer low ticket products for people who don't have that much money to invest, but then you also need to offer high ticket products and medium ticket products for people who can spend more money. But obviously you cannot sell the same thing to everybody for different prices. If it's a higher price, you'll need to provide more, or at least not necessarily more in terms of deliverables or of your time, but more in terms of results. The transformation has to be more impactful. People, they don't pay for coaching, they don't pay for courses, they don't pay for books, they don't pay for leads, they pay for results. When somebody hires a personal trainer, they're not paying you per hour of your time. They don't care about that. They're paying you because they want to lose weight or build more muscle, because they want to look better, because they want to be loved more and admired by other people. That is the real transformation that they want. And if you want a great tip to boost your sales, focus on selling an outcome, a transformation, as opposed to selling deliverables. Like I said, people do not care about buying hours of coaching or online courses. People care about an outcome.
In business, you're doing everything. You might be doing the marketing, boom, sales, boom, the customer service, right? In me, I made the websites. I was writing the copy, emails, you're doing everything, and there's even more stuff you got to do when you're running a business. However, as soon as I was making any amount of money, first thing I started doing was paying other people to do these things, because I knew that the part to make the most money for me at the time was the sales and marketing.
He made a very important point. When he was working all by himself, he didn't have that much leverage. It means he needed to do everything himself. And that's a lot of work for one person to do. But then as soon as he started to make some money, he reinvested it in the business by hiring other people, by delegating to other people. And when I say hiring, it doesn't have to be employees per se, that you have to pay with a salary, payroll and bonuses and sick days. It can be freelancers and contractors. And oftentimes, that's what I recommend that people do, that they delegate to contractors and freelancers. Because from a business perspective, you'll save a lot of money by doing so instead of hiring somebody in-house full-time. Because when you pay a contractor, you pay them solely for the work that they do. If they don't do the work, you don't get to pay them.
I actually got this from Perry. You start looking at your life. What are things in your life that you do that don't make you money?
You know, if you want to make more money, oftentimes people, they look at what they need to do in the business, but you also need to look at what are you doing in your personal life. And what I mean by this is that if you're making $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, but you're still going to the grocery store or cooking your own food, it's like maybe 10 hours a week or even sometimes 20 hours a week that you could spend doing something else, growing your business. Like if you take that time that you have to do the dishes, do the groceries, cook the food, and instead you put even just half of it or a third of it in your business, in building systems and processes to scale your business to the next level, then the growth that you'll be able to experience is going to be significantly bigger than if you just kept doing the groceries and going and buying your own food. And even in your business, the goal is to keep things lean and mean, to not have unnecessary expenses. Like for instance, if you start an online business, it's great because you don't need an office, you don't need business cards and all that stuff, especially when you are just starting out. And some business models, they allow you to have insanely high profit margins, 98% profit margins as you first begin. And even when you scale, if you scale to like, let's say 8 figures a year, you won't drop below 50% profit margins. Because with businesses like dropshipping, for instance, first you need more money than you think to get started. Because if you're going to find a winning product or just to build a brand in general and use ads or influencer marketing to get traffic onto your product page, to get customers, it's going to require a lot of money. You need to try different ad copies, different ad creatives, and you need some cash to be able to burn through, which most people, in my experience, they don't have $2,000 to $10,000 just lying around in their bank account to do whatever the hell they want with it. And that's why I advise most people that they start a service-based online business. Because you not only need some kind of money to start the business usually, but you need to ask yourself, how much money do I need to spend every month to keep the business running? Like for instance, if you need to pay a software, maybe you need to pay $50 a month to keep your business running. With dropshipping, if you need to pay some ads, you need maybe to spend $5,000 a month just to pay for the ads. So if you're not profitable, you lose $5,000 every month. Now fair enough, there are other ways to do dropshipping, like with organic marketing. I've done it myself. But even then, when you make some money with that, profit margins are very thin, 5 to maybe 30%. And then keep in mind, you'll have to pay taxes on top of that. Corporate tax to begin with, but then if you want to take that money out of the business and use it to buy things for yourself, for everyday life, like just to pay rent, food and water, to give you an example, you're still going to need to pay, again, taxes on top of that. And if you wanted to make $10,000 a month with, let's say, dropshipping, how many products would you need to sell to make $10,000 a month? In business, you can either typically sell a high-ticket product to a few people or a low-ticket product to a big group of people. Think Ferrari versus Amazon or Netflix. Now, if you want to start your own online business, you have no clue what to do and no clue where to start. I've made a free video in which I analyze every popular online business model, like dropshipping, affiliate marketing, info products, consulting, Amazon FBA. We're going to take a look at the pros, at the cons of all of those business models, and I'm also going to share with you the 3-step process that you can use to start your own business today and to start getting your first customers. The link is in the description below if you are interested. And with that said, as always, I am waiting for you on the other side.